Okay, guys, so on Friday, we were introduced to the imaginary unit. Today, we're going to add and subtract and multiply with I. So for start us off for the example set 1, we're just going to add and subtract. Now, on Friday, you guys did such a good job with kind of taking some intuition to figure out what you're going to do. Because since I works just like an X, we're going to combine like terms. So for our first example, I've got 1 minus 6I plus 2 plus 3I. So I'm going to combine my integers first. So 1 and 2 give me 3. And then when I combine my i's, I've got negative 6i and positive 3i for negative 3i. So my final answer is 3 minus 3i. For number 2, I'm going to take 5 minus I, then subtract 2 minus 12i. Now, personally, I like to distribute that negative. So then when I rewrite my problem, I have 5 minus I minus 2 plus 12i. Now I'm going to combine like terms just like I did in example 1. So when I combine, I'm going to get 3 plus 11i. Now, where things get fun is when we start to multiply, because while I will work exactly like an X, I has some special components to it. So example set 2, there's going to be 2.5 versions in here. We are going to multiply. So for my first problem, I've got 3 times 2 minus I. This one's version 1, where all we have to do is distribute. So when I distribute, I'm going to have 3i times 2, which gives me 6i, and 3i times negative 5i, which gives me negative 15i squared. Now this I squared piece, that's where things are going to get fun. Remember that I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So when I square both sides, the square root and the square cancel, so I have I squared is equal to negative 1. Long story short, the I squared will cancel and the sign in front of it will change. So my answer becomes 15 plus 6i. Now, for example 2, I'm going to show you a second version because the multiply piece is not new. I is the only new part. So this time, let's take a look at 2 minus 3i and multiply that by 5 plus I. This one's version 2. This time, we're going to FOIL. FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. So when we multiply our first terms, we've got 2 times 5, which is 10. When we multiply our outer terms, I have 2 times I, which is going to give me 2i. The inner terms are negative 3i and 5. So when I multiply those, I'm going to get negative 15i. Then when I multiply my last, I've got negative 3i times I. That gives me negative 3i squared. Just like we just saw, I'm going to cancel out my I squared. And when I do that, it's also going to make my 3 positive. So now we're going to combine like terms. 10 and 3 give me 13. 2i minus 15i give me negative 13i. So my final answer here is 13 minus 13i. Notice that I'm putting I in the back. If you're putting I in the front, it's okay, but mathematically, we typically put I in the back. Now, when I started this example set, I said there was going to be 2.5 versions. Here's our 0.5. Example 3. Let's take a look at 2 minus 4i squared. Now, be careful with that squared. You do not distribute it. Squared in math in terms of binomials means that you have 2 of them. So I'm going to have 2 minus 4i times 2 minus 4i. Now it becomes FOIL. So for first, I have 2 times 2, which gives me 4. When I do my outers and inners, I end up getting the same thing. That should happen. That's why I have 2 negative i's. Then my last, I have 16i squared. Now be careful with this one. This time, my 16 becomes negative. When I combine that with 4, I get negative 12. And when I combine like terms, I get negative 16i. You are now at a place where you have to practice. So make sure you pull up the practice page, look at the worksheet, and get to work.